Okay, so hi everyone. It's super wonderful to have all of you join us today for our Redesigning Social Democracy workshop. We're really super excited to have you with us. We wanted to maybe take a moment to introduce ourselves since we're kind of a large group of facilitators. So this is us.
Good morning, I am Manuela. I'm originally from Chile, but I live in Norway for quite a while. I'm a systemic designer at DesignIt and an associate professor in service design at the Oslo School of Architecture and Design.
And hi everyone, my name is Guy Haviv. I'm an executive design director at DesignIt and originally a software developer, and I teach digital experience design at Shankar College of Design. And I'm from Tel Aviv.
Hi, I'm Alice. I am a service designer in the office, in DesignIt office in Oslo, but I'm originally from Czech Republic when I'm right now.
Hi, good morning. My name is Itay. I'm also from Tel Aviv. I lead the business design team in Tel Aviv, and I teach service design at the interdisciplinary center in Herzliya, also in Israel. Super excited to be here.
Good morning, and I'm Emilie. I'm also located in the Oslo office, and I lead the service design team there. And I'm very pregnant. I'm looking forward to this day with you guys this morning. Just a few words about who DesignIt is. We're a global design firm, originally from Denmark. And we're lots of different nationalities and also different disciplines, if you can change the slide. Oh, yeah. And we have this mantra in DesignIt that we'd love to use, which is design what matters, because we want people to understand that what matters to people also matters to business. So we always strive to kind of make good services and solutions for people. Yeah, and we're very multidisciplinary. We have all the design disciplines in the offices, but we also have like anthropologists, we have psychologists, technologists, and so on, and geeks, as it says here, which is really cool. And this is just a small kind of look at projects we've done in public sector and nonprofit. And it goes from healthcare to working with the Nobel Peace Center and elderly care, for example. And we will talk a bit about some of the cases before we dive into the workshop today.
Okay, so what we basically wanted to spend, I'd like to give you a little bit of an intro and kind of describe why we're passionate about this project or this topic and what kind of drove us to spend a lot of time kind of trying to form all of these thoughts into some action. So in general, let's kick it right off. And we basically wanted to start by talking about broadening our ambition. So I think if you think about it and you take, let's say, the SDN Global Conference, and you take an intersection of everyone that is involved, you would likely find a highly skilled group of practitioners, right? And within that group, between all of us, we likely work with commercial projects, technological challenges, and a lot of public services, but we might work on them on like a one-by-one basis. But if we imagine we zoom out and we kind of continuously zoom out more and more, and what happens if we try to intentionally kind of organize around giving meaningful amount of love into our public services? And this is kind of what we wanted to talk about today. So what we basically wanted to focus on is kind of something which, depending on where you live, is either highly talked about or somehow tucked underneath consciousness, and that is social democracy, and more specifically kind of the welfare state. And for us, I mean, also being a Danish company originally, but also being just progressives living in Israel, kind of this is a subject that's very close to our heart. Because even though we might not be kind of on a day-to-day basis aware of this, this is at the end what kind of funds our unemployment, kind of pays for us through healthcare and school, possibly, and in some places housing, which gives us strong labor unions, and these are the tenants of what you would kind of typically associate with, let's say, a modern welfare state. But some of these things tend to get a bad rap, right? I mean, they tend to sound anachronistic. They tend to sound like old world. And there's, I think, a challenge which we've yet to maybe tackle as a discipline around giving more love to our public services. And so, whoops. But I think we can see, and this is just a super simplistic way of looking at it, but I mean, I think we can see quite quickly that this is like a table showing a pre-welfare and post-welfare absolute poverty rates. And you can just see across many countries in the Nordics mostly, but also in other parts of Europe and the USA, that these services have an actual effect, right, on absolute poverty rates, even if you just kind of slice by that, right? So these tenants that we've seen a second ago, and these mostly public services and other arrangements in each country have an actual kind of benefit and impact on our lives. And even though they still do, we still quite often give them, as I said, a bad rap. And so what we wanted to maybe start with is this idea of an axis around which the conversation is often kind of happening around public services. So, and I think you will sympathize quite often, but depending on your country, whenever there is a public discourse on big, meaningful public services, it is usually, the discussion is usually quite shallow. It's usually about either, let's take, I don't know, social security as an example, or public healthcare. It's usually about either keeping it as is, not messing it up, right? Or it is on the right side, either defunding it to some extent or privatizing it, whatever it might be, right? It might be Medicaid or Medicare. It might be sort of HMOs in Israel. It might be public education and so forth. And most of the discourse is always on that axis, right? So it's either trying to protect something or just going all the way down and fragmenting it. And this is kind of the entry point to our discussion, because we think there is an opportunity to add more axes here. So there's an opportunity to give more love and have more meaning and have an additional tool set into approaching all of these services. And if we somehow mobilize all of us together and we do that at scale, we can really make a difference. And so the point we want to kind of try and get across, I think, is that quite a few challenges you would kind of find in the public sector are quite similar to things between all of us we're quite good at solving, or at least tackling, right? So if you take like a slice of a social security of a country or a healthcare service, it is quite likely that it's maybe similar to a slice of challenges you would find with a big telecommunications company, let's say, where it might be like the services being or not being relevant to, let's call it, our century, or how complex things are, or how complex processes are, or whether the digital presence is good or bad. Our systems old or new, in the sense that are they fit for purpose? Can you self-serve, or do you find it difficult? There's a tension between like a physical space, call centers, and self-service, of course. There's lots of paperwork, and it's often, very often, confusing for users or constituents, and there are often organization silos and so forth, right? And what I hope that you kind of feel while you read through this list is, I know this stuff, right? I know this. I mean, we know this from Israeli banks and insurance companies and telecommunication and healthcare services, right? And there's so many similarities. And so if we already are, as a large global group of practitioners, if we're already quite good at tackling these things in different levels of scale, what happens if we continue to zoom out and we decide to tackle them at a meaningful level of scale? And we start small, but we have an intention to grow. And so you might know this kind of a famous quote from Madeleine Albright, but it's still always fun and makes sense. So let's read through it. So these days, people are talking to their governments using 21st century technology, while governments listen on 20th century technology and respond with 19th century policies, right? So while it is picking the wound a little bit, and it is painful to read, but still, in a way, it defines an opportunity, right? Because I think, I mean, we spend our entire days helping transform services. And if we kind of collectively point our kind of all of our effort and firepower in, let's say, a collective direction, there's so much impact to be had. And so what we wanted to get to is, can we reinvigorate, and this is kind of the big, there are two big questions we're asking ourselves. Can we reinvigorate the welfare state with service design? So can we use all of these skills learned and thought through many different projects and disciplines, and somehow add another level of tools and another narrative into kind of walking through not only that access of either keeping something as it is or privatizing it, but rather giving it much more love. And as a result, can we somehow build a completely new tool set for social democracy? So just like speaking personally as a progressive, it is quite often missing when there's political discourse on services to have a positive message and not just a protectionistic message, right? So describing how something can be more user-centered, or can have better targets, or can serve constituents better, and having a tool set to bring it into discourse can be, we think, transformative in many countries. So well, our thinking around this is we want to build this, or our intention to have all of you in the room here is we want to build this into a movement, right? Because we can imagine taking at first a few, and then tens, and then hundreds of service designers and mobilizing them in different places and connecting different consultancies per country and kind of tackling problems together. And I can tell you from a personal experience, we've experienced several large projects where a big company just got all of selected all on a bunch of consultancies, threw everyone in one big space and tackled big, meaningful problems together. And the feeling is so energizing. And this is kind of the inspiration on what we imagine we can do together. And so what we spend the rest of the time talking about and then workshopping a little bit is how might we actually kind of make this thinking into a movement. And so there's a point about, like, as designers, we can think about a lot of kind of, we can analyze complicated situations, but we can also kind of translate them into action, right? So we can plan concrete, I mean, quite often in different types of projects, we plan what we call interventions, right? We can solve this problem by completely redoing the thing, or we can solve it by intervening here and here and here. And that way we get the positive outcomes. So thinking about this through interventions is quite interesting, right? And those can be in different scales, but just having the intention of starting small and then scaling up between all of us can be pretty amazing. And so if we try to take that skill of, let's say, diverging planning interventions and then acting on them, that can be a great first step. So this is what we basically wanted to do now. And from here.
Great, thanks Guy for that amazing introduction. Now we'll look at some concrete interventions that we've done that can improve the life of citizens. So now we have an axis from on the top, government-led top-down interventions to people-driven bottom-up interventions, and some projects more bounded to one organization and some others that are much more systemic, that cut across a lot of organizational silos. So the first project I will share with you is changing the lives for breast cancer patients, which was very much a mandate from Oslo University Hospital, so very much top-down led and bounded to a single hospital, potentially scaling to different hospitals, but more for one sector. So if we can go into that one. Next, perfect. So the challenge was that it took Oslo University Hospital 12 weeks, meaning 3 months, to tell you if the lump that you had discovered in your breast was cancerous or not, meaning women had to live in a limbo for 3 months. So as Design-It, we took on that challenge, and we really wanted to co-map the patient journey, but involving a lot of different professionals, from medical doctors to nurses to radiologists to, of course, patients and caregivers themselves, to really surface those most pressing needs. One of the big key insights that came out of that project was that getting a cancer diagnosis at the end of those 3 months was sometimes a relief after the limbo that you had been through. So just so you can imagine the scale of the problem. Based on the different patient needs, we gathered all the different staff and stakeholders together to co-create ideas based on those needs. then created different concepts for a radically different kind of organization around the breast cancer kind of diagnostic process, and deliver a realistic solution at the end. So when I'm talking about the solution that was created, was very much about reorganizing how different roles collaborate with each other in the hospital. So understanding where all the bottlenecks in the systems were, and created a much more efficient journey that was actually centered around patients' needs rather than hospital needs, which most solutions are designed around. And as a result, the waiting time was being able to be reduced by 90%, which means from 3 months to 3 days at the beginning of the pilot, and then it extended to a week. But still, that was just amazing results. And it didn't really start the project as an efficiency project about like how let's make it faster, but maybe how can we make it more centered around patient needs, which then resulted in efficiency. You can read it at the SDN website. Second project, Itay will walk us through.
Yeah, thanks, Manuela. I'd like to talk about Smartmatic. It's the one in the middle. It's an interesting project that kind of tackles barriers for voting and inclusion in the democratic process of voting. And it's interesting since it's a private company that tries to tackle kind of universal challenges in voting across different landscapes. And you can imagine the challenges around different systems and different approaches and different kind of mindset towards what's voting, what voting is, and why is it important. And we basically designed everything from the physical product to the digital interface to kind of overarching processes that support the voting process. And when you think about the universal challenges of voting, it's really about, it doesn't matter the specific mechanism, but how you generate trust and transparency and a sense of trust among the people and among government that the process was done correctly and really kind of manifests the people's wills and that everyone was included. One of the basic principles that we had to tackle is the fact that you want to bring the ability to vote to remote locations. So that's kind of the reason for putting this, making this device portable and small in size and very easy to deploy across different locations. Yeah, and when you look at Smartmatic now and their kind of portfolio today, they're kind of growing into new barriers that are now characterizing voting. They're in air sterilization and local sterilizers around COVID-19. So they're trying to tackle every bit of challenge that is facing people that want to go out and vote. And I think that's a really good description of kind of the service design approach applied on democracy and democratic challenges.
Thanks, Itay. The last project that we want to share with you, it's less of a project, but more of a movement, because it was very much a bottom-up approach that gathered different designers, service designers together in 2015 to tackle the refugee crisis that Europe was facing. And it cut across different organizational silos. So we're talking about systemic change here. And it was called Guts to Change, and it was an apolitical platform for collaboration to unlock Norway's potential by involving multiple perspectives that share this guts to change. And it all started because a politician in Norway made an open call to the Ministry of Health asking how can we really address this situation differently by bringing different actors, private, public, NGO, academia together and look at this systemic challenge as a system. So a colleague of us at Design It, together with Ube Kenneth Nordland, Kaya and Ube Kenneth, wrote to the politician and told them about the service design approach, thinking this letter would never go through. But the politician told them, why don't you come to the parliament tomorrow morning and we have a chat? And basically he proposed, if you think service design can do this, you can host a workshop, a large scale workshop at the parliament in 2 months. So then Kaya comes back to me saying she couldn't believe this was happening. And we started actually just mobilizing everyone we knew that this opportunity was upon us, our competitors, our colleagues, our friends, people in the public sector, and the answer from people was like, yes, I want to contribute with my professional service design skills rather than volunteering or donating money. This became a kind of a key motivator for people to join. So in 3 days after, we met on a Sunday morning, very, very cold morning in Oslo, at a kindergarten with everyone we had gathered to start kind of planning this big workshop. It was like this one-time opportunity, and that actually became a recurrent thing. For 2 months, we met every Sunday morning from 10 to 12 a.m. To plan it. We made a core group of 4 of us that we gave a little bit of consistency, but every Sunday we had different people and we divided tasks. So some of us went to the reception centers and started meeting newly arrived refugees, understanding their perspective, their journey, their wishes, their fears. If you go to the next. And we also created a very kind of open platform. So we had a Dropbox, an open Dropbox with 40 members that became kind of our archive. Whenever we were planning something, learning something, everything was documented in there. So the next slide. So it took 2 months to organize. We met also on many Wednesdays, but we managed to mobilize 28 designers and over 100 people from public private sectors that had the guts to participate in this. So that, as I said, the network grew quickly. And then I just want to share with you, what did we actually design for this event? We started by curating the table. So we had 120 people. This seems a bit like old days ago when we could do this. But anyways, we curated tables so they really included different perspectives from private companies, entrepreneurs, service providers, local government, national actors, knowledge providers, policymakers from different political parties. And each table had one starting point, which was a how might we, a little bit framed. So if you can go to the next. And we also wanted people to introduce themselves by superpowers, because we realized that there was a lot of power dynamics involved. We didn't want people to introduce themselves with their professions, because that would just kind of amplify those dynamics. But we wanted to be a bit playful and just talk about their superpower. And that completely changed the conversation. It was a very symbolic element. It had a really profound effect. And then we grounded the conversation on the asylum seekers' journey. And we had different inspiration to create ideas on an opportunity space and the mechanisms of change that would kind of diffuse ideas. And towards the end, everyone left. It was a 4-hour workshop, half a day, with an individual to-do that they could act upon in the short term and long term, but at the same time, a collective learning for each of the groups that all of them shared in front of the president of the parliament and many political politicians. So if you go to the next, if you can just play the video. This is what happened the next day. We need sound. If you can play it again, maybe, Guy.
Frivillige og innovatører i det offentlige på besøk her i Stortinget. Mottoet var Guts to Change. Felles for dem alle er at de ser på migrasjon i Europa og Norge som en mulighet og ikke som en krise.
So basically we have there a hearing happened that same week where Kjetil Henseth, the initiator of this, was sharing about the Guts to Change event, where the whole framework was to transform a crisis into an opportunity for collaboration. We go to the next segment of the video in the next slide.
Because it's trying to engage more people in creating how we should work in the different issues. And I hope that it can change the way of how we interfere with the whole society with important processes. That's democracy. When people with ideas, people with values, meet people with experiences from their lives, and when all these three come together, then you create good politics.
She was the leader of the Liberal Party. Now she's a minister. And she was also reflecting that this was very much connected to the old way of creating politics, where you were much hands-on and it was just groups of people coming together. So from the Guts to Change process, there were different projects, some of them founded by refugees themselves. Serkefti was one of them, which meant successful in Kurdish. Then the parliament revised their national budget to allow for more cross-sector collaboration. Many connections, because we had curated the tables in some ways, lots of different connections were made that then transformed into either strengthening projects or new projects. And some projects were just thrown out the window because they had people working in public sector met people with lived experience of being a refugee, and they realized what I'm designing doesn't really reflect the reality. So we just need to redesign it here, now and then, which is an amazing effect. If you go to the next. And this is the president of the parliament that really reflected that this was about changing minds, that we had a broad-minded atmosphere here where everyone was included and people felt valued. And the next is, just wanted to end with also a nice quote from Margaret Mead, because it really, for us, it was, we were a small group of citizens. And we had an opportunity to change the world, and we just acted upon it and took it, and it just felt so meaningful, and it had a lot of effect in allowing us to build a community that can work across kind of silos and boundaries and sectors, which is great. So next, Alice will walk you through the drivers of change.
Yes, so from all of our experiences, also some of the ones that you saw now, we kind of started to formulate these 5 drivers of change to kind of create a framework to start designing the interventions towards the movement. These are still work in progress. I mean, this is going to evolve, but this is our first iteration, and we are going to be working with these in our workshop now after I present them. So the first one, it's really important to, if you go to the next slide, it's very important to kind of answer the sense of urgency. So as you could see in all of the projects that we presented, we kind of reply to an urgency that we saw in the world. So it's very important to kind of look around in the world and kind of get the momentum going on the urgency that is happening right now. In the next one is about reframing the challenge as an opportunity. So this is something that we as designers do quite often. We see a problem where a lot of people see a problem and they kind of stop there. We reframe it to an opportunity to kind of look towards the future in a positive way, to see the possibilities, not kind of the stopping wall. The next one is, the next driver is about making a symbol and rituals that are memorable. And this we see is a very important thing to kind of have sustainable engagement and get people really involved in the project and get them very excited and keep going with the project. This can just be anything, and we are gonna give an example. The next one is to kind of invite and include everyone. This is also something that we as designers do quite often. So we tend to collaborate and we love to co-create together. And this is a very crucial step to kind of bring all the perspectives together and hear people who have different opinions than you to kind of broaden your perspective. And the last one, which is also very important, is to kind of find the rhythm and goals to never stop moving. So this is kind of also, again, for creating this sustainable movement going forward. So we see that it's important to kind of find a rhythm in your process. So creating a small gatherings in a smaller team than a bigger gatherings, it is very important to kind of put this framework down and create goals, milestones on the way towards the end goal is also very important. And it's important to also write it down and have it communicated to the team. So yes, this was a short introduction to all of the drivers of change. And now back to Manuela.
Yes. Thank you, Alice. I'm just going to share my screen here. We will be shortly working on a Miro board. For those who are not familiarized with Miro, it's a collaborative whiteboard, and we'll be mainly using just one tool in Miro, which you can find over here, which are the sticky notes, but we'll practice that in a second. I just want to exemplify the drivers of change that Alice has just walked you through, because those will be become the activities later on in the workshop. So the first driver, respond to a sense of urgency. So in the Guts to Change case that I just shared, and this is where we should start on the top, what did we see as an urgent topic? So we could, of course, see through the media and through like all around us that there were just so many people that were requiring humanitarian assistance from, of course, different countries, but we were specifically focusing in Norway. And once you've defined kind of the urgent topic that will get you kind of mobilized to act now, you can trace back a little bit and understand, okay, so what caused this? And of course, there were so many people displaced, 13.5 million people in a short amount of time. And of course, you can go, the cause was Syrian civil war in that time period. Of course, it's important to bound a little bit your project, because we couldn't solve everything, but we could do something about what was happening with people arriving to Norway, and we could see the consequences of this. So there was many, reception centers were full. There was a lot of unemployment. People had no plan. A lot of people, similar to the breast cancer project, the limbo of the waiting was just so detrimental to their mental health and to everything. And most importantly, many people were seeing refugees as a burden to the welfare system, where we really wanted to reframe that and see how we can enable people to contribute and feel useful from day one and really take care of the needs. So that was an important reframe for the project. So back to the second driver, how can we reframe the challenge as an opportunity? And once we're describing the challenge, so in this case, it could be reframing refugees as a resource, we can frame it as a how might we statement. So one of the powerful how might we statements that was used in the tables in the workshop was, how might we use refugees' resources in society from day one? And can we use this situation, this kind of, some people call it a crisis, some others, as an opportunity to make the welfare system better for everyone as well. And when you're framing how might we questions, if they do not allow for multiple solutions, you have it too narrow. So you need to broaden it up. And if your how might we question already suggests a specific idea, then you need to, again, broaden it up. So those are just some tips. When you see these green circles, they're small tips. I forgot to say that in every canvas on the right, there's a little bit summary. So you will use that section to summarize and the kind of the templates to brainstorm. Third driver, make symbols and rituals that are memorable. So in Guts to Change, we had several. So one important ritual was the pop-up Sunday meetings from 10 to 12 in the morning, this recurrent kind of event, but also it was very symbolic for everyone involved to get the chance to host something at the Norwegian Parliament. So that in and of itself acted as a symbol. Of course, parliaments are a symbol of power. So many people that have never been working in politics or places of power before, that became quite an important driver. We also really wanted to have it a political, or at least politically diverse, so involve a lot of people from different political parties. And when you saw in the workshop, we created the superpowers. That is also a symbol of sharing what really drives us as human beings and not as our professional roles. And when we think about other rituals and symbols, In Chile, I'm from Chile, you have the feminist movement, Las Tesis, where they have a choreography as a ritual. Sometimes any type of dress code, either a mask or a blindfoldness, all of those things become very, very symbolic and can be very, very powerful when you want to give meaning, create a shared system of meaning on what you're trying to achieve and communicate. The fourth driver is to invite and include everyone. So being incredibly inclusive in your approach. So you really have to stretch yourself. And in the case of Guts to Change, I think we could have been much more inclusive. It really started with one politician and a core team of doers that were kind of in the inner circle that gave this movement or process continuity. And then we really worked very closely together with the service design network. So all the service designers in all the different agencies in Norway and public sectors and academia. And then we involved refugees, staff working in reception centers and their relationship with refugees as well, public employees, private businesses and entrepreneurs and politicians. But when you're doing this, we can also think about like other actors that might not necessarily, it might not be the first ones you think about including, but could be, of course, really key to your movement and to making interventions happen and have sustainable change. And the last driver of change is to really find both an organizational rhythm, meaning how often are you kind of keeping this ticking? How often are you meeting in terms of small meetings and in terms of bigger milestones? But then again, goals are also important to keep us moving and non-stop. So when you think about goals, you can think about small interventions, but you can also think about your inspiring end goals that might be harder to achieve, and they might be really long and slow term changes, but they give everyone a sense of direction. And back to the rhythm, this is more about just what type of events or instances and how often do you think you need to keep the momentum going. So it's less about content, but more about when is it happening and when are we meeting and who's meeting. And the bottom one is more about when we're meeting, what are we doing, if it makes sense. So yes, these are the 5 drivers that we want to really explore with you in the workshop. They are also work in progress, so any type of feedback is really highly welcomed. So please let us know your thoughts, and hopefully we can keep iterating this. And now the moment that you probably been waiting for, let's introduce each other, because we're dying to know who's in the room. So for this, we've prepared a very short warm-up exercise. So I will share with you now on the chat the Miro link, and I will make everyone first come into pairs. So I want you to introduce yourself to someone else randomly from the workshop, and with a sticky note. So also this is an exercise to learn how to make sticky notes in Miro. You will make a sticky note about the other person that summarizes who they are, what they do, and something they did this morning. Okay? So I'll share the link now. Chat, where's chat? There. This is the link. So as people are joining, you can place the stickies in the canvas just down there. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can do the breakout rooms. And we'll start by that. So you'll all get paired with someone. So we have how many participants? 18. So that means I need to do 36 rooms. Okay. So we have 5 minutes for this brief one-on-one introductions. So we'll meet again in, I'll stop the breakout rooms in 5 minutes. So have fun. this was really fun. Thank you so much for all your energy and great ideas. So just it's so fun to work together with when we have so different realities and experiences.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Itay.
Super interesting. So such a short time to discuss such interesting topics.
Yes. We didn't finish the last one.
Neither did we, and we rushed the fourth as well. So
yeah,
but it was super funny, actually.
Like just the fact of sharing our experiences from different countries was just amazing. I learned so much just by having Lithuania, South Korea, and the US, Norway, Chile in the room. Great. So last people are joining. Hello, welcome back. Hope you had fun. Yes, so now I will share my screen again. Here, just want to have a quick look at what everyone did. This is very nice, even some concepts there. Cool. Many groups, including ours, did not finish, so I encourage you to keep the conversation going and use this template. But we wanted to share with you that we actually have created a website to continue our movement. So we, if possible, and if you want to join this kind of network, after we wrap up, if you can put your a picture of yourself and a short introduction and email address, we will add you to the network. So here it's going to be organized by countries because we think the real value of bringing us all together is to really understand and experience our different realities. So then we can put the outputs of today's session and have a kind of a constellation of people that are interested in this. So maybe we can organize local chapters, and we will also put the templates that we use that we hope to keep iterating with you. So all feedback is really, really welcomed. So you can use this last section here about to share with us what you liked, what you learned, and what you wished for.
Yes, we would love to have your feedback on that, and also feedback next to the templates would be great as well. As I said, this is a work in progress, so that's great. Guy, do you want to talk a bit more about the website? Or...
Sure. So if you wanna, you would like to switch for a second there, Manuela, back to the website. So what we basically did is we wanted to kind of have it be already online, right? So if you go to redesigningsocialdemocracy.org, you would find that it's online. It's real, although it's quite small, and the content is a bit fake at this point. But what we wanted to do is based on our kind of, we had this experience, as I told you before, about working with large organizations and being multiple consultancies, multiple agencies at the same time in the same space. And there was something completely magical about it. And so this is, we've imagined, if you click one of the countries, we imagined kind of forming like a network of professionals where you can just see everyone, you can see where they kind of where they work, what they do, and you can click everyone and just get like immediately email them. And imagine having this big nice list per country where you could just find practitioners that are relevant to working in the public sector and can give kind of can have this voice or this kind of amplifier of giving love back to our welfare states. So this is kind of a first step, but we hope to kind of help make this grow as we go. And we completely, absolutely love to list you and everyone you know who would be relevant. So please help propagate this, and hugs and kisses.
Yeah, and we talked about in my group, you know, that it would be great to kind of have a place where you can share some knowledge and share like, how do you do it? How do we, and then if we have these contacts, we can actually get together and discuss these things as well. So that's great. Did we put that you need to write your country as well, where you're located in the?
Maybe not. Maybe I'll just add it now.
Yes, add your country as well.
Yes, country.
Stefan asks, are you going to publish the email addresses directly online?
Unless you don't want us to, then yes. Because that's it. I mean, the intention is to help you get quick contacts.
Okay, that's for sure. I just wanted to know because I might have to ask my organization as
Yeah.
As
it can
a
also
private,
be like a Gmail. Yeah.
A
So,
private
so just make
organization.
sure, yeah, since we have some of your emails, make sure that if you don't want your email published, don't put it on the Miro board in this board. If it's not here, we won't put it, and if it is, we will. So
maybe I can put some LinkedIn notice or something.
Yes.
Yeah, or a Gmail or a personal email. Yep.
Definitely. Personal emails work great, or LinkedIn or any social media. We have time for a few comments, questions, feedback.
I'll reiterate one of the feedbacks in my group, which I agree completely. I think some of the all of the topics are interesting. Some require some preliminary knowledge or understanding or context. So I think that for further discussion, we should definitely consider sending some pre-reads, allowing people to decide what they want to work on. And in that tone, please feel free to, jump on a different board here and join a different group that you didn't touch on that topic. If you're interested, it's completely fluid.
Yes.
Definitely.
We'll leave the Miro link open, so feel free to keep working on it, sharing your thoughts, and then we'll try to capture as much as possible in the website. So this can hopefully also become part of the SDN local chapters, that we can have like one theme around redesigning social democracy and leverage kind of, our global reach as service designers and have an instance where we get to work globally, but also with competitors or with academic partners, students, etc., which is super exciting.
It was a really good experience for us, and thank you so much for being so engaged. That's really important. And also asking good questions on this Slack or this chat and everything. And yeah, it's been, and we'd love the feedback as Itay say. Yeah, any questions? Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for all of you guys for a lot of preparation that we can all see went into this workshop. I really enjoyed the presentation. I took so much notes, and I think a lot of us got also very inspired by that, especially how you mapped out the different possibilities of initiating these kind of projects, and it was very eye-opening, at least for me, that sometimes these policy changes or these changes regarding services in this sphere can come from a bottom-up approach, and I really enjoyed listening to that presentation. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kata.
Yeah, it was a good session. Learned a lot. We'll be practicing and bring this morning to work. So
great. And if you have any more questions, or you can, of course, we'll try to answer you from all your feedback. But we are also here for we can have conversations after the session. We look forward to meeting and working you maybe in the future in this more.
And kind of one last note, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, it's only been like a short time frame, but just getting to listen to a few of you with the work that you already do, with the organizations you already are engaged with, I mean, even if it was like 20 seconds, was fascinating, right? So for me, that means that the hypothesis that we have about like taking a sample of this global organization and all of these practitioners and kind of feeding into this existing talent and the stuff that is already being done, and then having conversations and then potentially zooming out and kind of growing ambition has so much potential. So thank you so much for sharing and taking the time to be with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And as a good, our service design teacher told us in school, me and Manu, that you always end a workshop 5 minutes before, because then you leave everybody leaves happy.
And one thing, we want to take, if possible, a group picture.
Yes.
So, okay, so this is the trick. We actually want to take a group picture of our hands, not our faces, and hopefully pointing towards the middle. But you don't know what middle is for me, so I'll be taking the screenshot. So I'll start with you, Justina, if you can do like this. Yeah, perfect. And Unyang, if you can do like this. Yeah, and there. And then Itay, like this. There, perfect. And Kata, like this. There. And Carolina, like this. There, perfect. And Emilia, like this. Yeah, perfect. And Guy, like this. Yes. And Frike, the other way around. The other way. Yes, perfect. And Stefan, just like this. No, the other way. Yes, there. And Katsumi, like this. Yes. Patrick, you also like this? It's like the Brady Bunch. I don't know if you ever saw that. Okay. And Sai, like this? Yes, perfect. And Yasmin, like this, maybe? Yeah, great. And the other ones are covered. So now I have to do the same and try to, how do I take a screenshot without spilling my coffee? And yeah, there. Great, fantastic job. And what we will do is in the middle where you are all pointing to, we'll put like a summary snapshot of either the temp. We'll see what nice image so we can diffuse it.
Is it okay to post this on Design It Instagram?
Great.
Perfect. If not, just tell us in the email after and we can take it away.
Yes.
You should put it on the mural board so we can have access to the picture as well.
Yes,
That's okay.
we will definitely.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a nice
day. Bye.
Lovely day. Bye.
So can I just ask you?
Yes.
So you were saying at the end you were at the GUTS project. You were different people from different agencies at the end, or was it one agency? So at the end, how did you manage this project in terms of, okay, who's providing which content and who is providing which kind of work? So did you, because it was like, it's still like a business thing, or was it like on a private thing? So you did it voluntarily, or?
Voluntarily. It was a volunteer thing. That's why we only met on Sundays or Wednesday evening. And just did it on the side, not as our organization, but as individuals knowing about service design. Of course, all our organizations benefited from being part of this collective process and the methods that we use. Many of the agencies, it was all open source in a way, whatever was created together, everyone could benefit. But it really it was just amazing because people want to volunteer, and with your professional skills and also getting to meet other people that you usually compete with or don't get to work with. It was just really cool.
So also the Norwegian Parliament was then meeting on a weekend or something?
Yeah, they were, no. Many people, when they came as individuals, came on the weekend, but we then hosted the workshop in the weekday. And if we actually talked about, like, if we would have counted the amount of hours people put into the 4-hour workshop, it would have been like the world's most expensive workshop. Like nobody would have been able to fund that. But because it was done kind of a little bit outside of your role, there were even people that took a vacation day to join that workshop because they asked their employer if they could join and they said no, and they went anyway, taking a vacation day. So it was super cool.
That's great. It's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
You need to come to the UK and do public sector stuff with me. Just like bounce ideas off.
That would be amazing.
You have a very good gov.uk, right? So there's a lot of service designers working there.
I know, I go to a lot of stuff. Yeah, I know. Gov.uk is good, but it's always good to get other European, other people's perspectives, I feel so.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks guys for the questions and the engagement. This has been really fun.
Yeah.
Can I have one more question? Sorry. I wanted to ask, so like the development of the framework itself, do you have any plans for that, or is it just keep on developing it from time over time?
We want to keep developing. It's been designed out of like experiences with multiple projects, so it's very much about like, okay, we need to create something that will just capture what we think has worked, but we want to make it accessible for everyone, so that's why we want to have it as part of the website. Hopefully if people are using it and learning something about it, then they can feed in, we can redesign it together and keep it moving as well as a framework.
Add drivers as well, maybe.
Yes.
It's only 5 now, so we can add some more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A final question. Sorry, you guys. I came very late. I was attending at 3 at night here in Denmark, and I really wanted to join these workshops, but I'm a student from AAU, and our teachers, they couldn't give us the login to the workshops. So I just wanted to know if anybody could share how the rest of the day will function. Is it in the same Zoom or is it another login?
I think Yasmin is there.
So workshops are, in comparison to the event yesterday, it's not one continuous meeting where everybody will join via live stream, but it's basically every workshop is a different Zoom meeting. And those who have registered for the workshops, meaning bought a workshop ticket, they have received the workshop access. I would recommend that you write an email to conference@service-design-network.org so that our team can help you, because I will be here in the workshop management part, and my hands are tied at the moment.
Yes. Thank you for the info.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it'd be cool to network with people later, but I don't really, I kind of haven't used that function. I feel like, you know, setting up the meeting stuff, just be great to, I don't know. Haven't really figured that one out yet.
Okay, thanks again, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a nice day and a great continuous with the Service Design Conference.
Yes. Thanks, Sarah. See you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks, Yasmin, for everything.
Yeah, thank you, Jasmine. Bye.
Interesting. Thumbs up. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. And hey, thank God it's Friday. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.